Hey everyone, DylanBandicoot here. The video game industry is big. So big in fact, there's always a large amount of underrated games. Underrated games can be games that a lot of people hate for various reasons, despite the fact that they can be very good. Or sometimes an underrated game is just not popular and not many people have heard of it, despite the game being very good. Today, we're gonna take a look at what I think the most underrated games are in this top 10 video. Let's get started. If you asked someone on the internet what the last good Star Fox game was, then you would likely get the following answer by most people. Star Fox 64, I guess. Personally, I disagree with that. I played a little bit of Star Fox Assault in the past and I kinda liked it. Star Fox Command was an amazingly fun game in my opinion, and I do admit that Star Fox Zero is a little bit rough and that the game is not so spectacular. However, my favorite Star Fox game and the most overhated / underrated is in my opinion Star Fox Adventures. Developed by the amazing company that is Rare, Star Fox Adventures is indeed very different from the rest of the franchise. Instead of being a space shooter, we get a more traditional Zelda-esque adventure game, and of course the diehard Zelda fan inside me really likes this. I feel like it is easier to get attached to the characters of the Star Fox universe in an adventure game, rather than a shooter where a bunch of stuff is flying all over the place and many things are happening on the screen all at once. There's a reason this game is so different however, because Star Fox Adventures was originally supposed to be a game with original characters instead made by Rare, and the game's title was originally Dinosaur Planet. There's a lot of discussion online whether or not the game would have been better off if the game wasn't transformed into a Star Fox game. And even though I really like Adventures, I do admit that I would have probably preferred it if it stayed as Dinosaur Planet. However, I honestly still recommend playing this game if you like the Star Fox universe or really cozy adventure games. I mean, just look, you have a dinosaur companion in this game. How can you not love that? Ain't that right, Tricky?
Where are we going?
We're going to Krazoa Palace.
Where are we going?
I said,
where are we going?
Shut up! We're going from one rare game to another. I recently played Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge for the very first time, and I was pleasantly surprised by how fun this game is. Like, why does no one ever talk about this Banjo game? It's a Banjo-Kazooie game but in handheld form. I was very surprised by how well the gameplay of Banjo-Kazooie was adapted to a handheld. It works very well and is very fun. The game is very short and sweet. I managed to complete it in like less than 5 hours I think. Also, in my opinion, this is a true Banjo 3E. Oh, but this game takes place in between the first game and 2E. So does that make this game actually Banjo-Kazooie 1.5, a fragmentary passage featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series and Knuckles plus cats? In 2018, Nintendo released Nintendo Labo. Cardboard controllers, also known as the Toy-Con, which you have to build yourself, and combined with the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers, you can play the various games Nintendo released alongside it. I was never interested in buying these until 2019, when Nintendo announced and released Labo VR, Nintendo's version of virtual reality. I was immediately interested, especially when I found out that you can play Breath of the Wild in VR. I mean, the standard VR kit is only $40, that's dirt cheap for VR. And if you want the full experience with all the available Toy-Con, then it's only $80. However, let me tell you a secret. When I bought the Labo VR starter kit, the toy store accidentally gave me the full kit, which means that I only paid $40 for $80 worth of Labo cardboard. Oops, guess I got lucky that day. And somebody probably got fired. I mean, I hope nobody got fired. Another thing that I really like about this VR experience is the fact that the Toy-Con combined with the HD rumble of the Joy-Con really made for some pretty immersive VR minigames.
Wow, it really feels like I'm taking pictures underwater.
You also look very stupid for everyone who watches you play. And getting back to playing Breath of the Wild in VR, I played that game for at least 100 hours in VR. I did all the story quests, including DLC, and even did every single shrine. One of the most immersive video game experiences of my entire life by far. And that was already my 4th playthrough of Breath of the Wild. The reason I included Labo VR in this list, by the way, is because it sadly enough underperformed and didn't sell that well, and no one ever talks about it anymore. But let me give you a hot take. I enjoyed Labo VR way more than PlayStation VR. Yeah, that's right, I said it.
Gee, I sure love eating ice cream with my friends. Oh wait, I don't have any friends. Who else will I have ice cream with?
Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days is probably the weirdest Kingdom Hearts game. People have always praised it for its story, so why is this game underrated? Well, most people know the story from the remastered cutscenes you can view in Kingdom Hearts 1.5, but most people haven't actually played the game because it was on the Nintendo DS, while Kingdom Hearts is mostly known for its success on the PlayStation. And the few people who have played it didn't really enjoy it. I recently played this game for the very first time and I had a blast. The fact that I was finally able to experience one of my favorite Kingdom Hearts stories in the form of a game like intended, instead of just a movie, was amazing. However, I do understand where some of the complaints come from. The first 2 or 3 hours of the game are a little bit too slow and boring. A little depressing even. But you know what? I think I kinda like that. In this game you play as Roxas and he doesn't know anything about himself or the world around him. All he knows is his name and that he's a part of Organization 13. I feel like the first 2 or 3 hours of the game makes the player feel what Roxas feels at the moment. Brain dead and depressed. And I know that no video game should make a player feel that way, especially not during the opening hours, because that isn't fun. But for some strange reason, I think it kinda has a charm that I sort of feel what Roxas feels at that moment. After those first few hours though, the game quickly becomes very fun to play in my opinion. This game is very unique compared to other Kingdom Hearts games, because instead of going to a Disney World and finishing it in one go, you now go to Disney Worlds many times in random order doing missions, each mission lasting an entire day. Another complaint that people have that I also agree with is the way you have to equip your Keyblade, your abilities and even your level ups. You have to try and squeeze everything you want into this grid kinda like a puzzle. It's kinda annoying and I wish they kept things more traditional with the customization. I also don't recommend 100% completing this game. The rewards are really funny but not worth it at all. The side missions in this game are a snooze fest. What is really cool though is that you can play as every single organization member in the side missions as well as some other characters. You can even play as Donald and Goofy for the first and only time in Kingdom Hearts history. What is a shame though is that most characters have terrible movesets and are not fun to play with. But we are getting too negative here. The point of this video is to convince people to play these games after all. I definitely recommend this game to any Kingdom Hearts fan. Believe me, the final moments of this game are worth it. The bosses are so much fun near the end. Does anybody remember MySims? I know what you're thinking right now. MySims sucks. That's what you thought, right? Well yes, the Wii version of the first MySims is bad. MySims Party was pretty bad too. MySims Racing was average at best, and MySims Sky Heroes was also not exactly my cup of tea. But what if I told you there are actually a decent amount of really good MySims games out there? I actually consider them my guilty pleasure games. The Nintendo DS version of the original MySims and MySims Kingdom, as well as the Wii versions of MySims Kingdom and Agents are amazing games in my opinion and very underrated because they get overshadowed by the bad MySims games on the internet. And because of that, most people assume these good games are bad as well. But that isn't true. These 4 games are some of the coziest games I ever played, with really likable characters with a surprisingly amount of character development across the games. In MySims for the DS, you move into a town that needs more public attention. As you meet and help more characters, the town slowly becomes bigger and more famous. MySims Kingdom for the DS feels like a direct sequel and is all about impressing the king while also solving a mystery near the end of the game. The Wii version of MySims Kingdom is an adventure game where you basically go on a road trip with your friends, Buddy and Lindsay, under command of King Roland in order to help the people of the kingdom with your magic wand that lets you place objects and create and decorate areas yourself for the various characters in the game. And last but not least, there's MySims Agents for the Wii. This may actually be my favorite of them all. Not only is the silent protagonist no more silent, this game is also about solving mysteries with a surprising amount of plot twists. You can even recruit various characters from across the series to solve mysteries for you in the background while they update you through text messages. You actually have to 100% complete this game in order to get the true ending. And believe me, you want to get this true ending, unless you want this game to end on an unresolved cliffhanger forever. Oh, and if you are wondering why I haven't talked about the DS version of Agents, that's because I played the game long ago and I remember it being a good game, but not as good as the other 4 games I just talked about. But it's not a bad game like the rest of the series either. I just don't remember it being very memorable. Oh, the soundtracks of these MySims games are also pretty good, by the way.
Beep beep, nu vi shoot me i behørt i det dirt, men det spørg, vil jeg splurk, men det beep, men de bad, men der pop, men de har, men de der, men de...
Let's be real here, all of us wish we could play with Pokemon all day. Luckily, there's Poképark v Pikachu's Adventure. Nobody ever talks about this game, and that has always bothered me. In this game, Pikachu and his friends Piplup, Chikorita and Charmander end up in a brand new world by accident while playing on the streets. This world they ended up in is called Poképark, a paradise for Pokemon where humans don't exist. The reason I love this game so much is because of how relaxing it is. It's so peaceful too. This game never fails to make me feel good inside. Pikachu lost his friends when entering Poképark, and his goal is to find them one by one while also solving the problems of various Pokemon and the mysteries of Poképark itself. This also requires you to sometimes complete various minigames such as playing tag, hide and seek, or even Pokemon battles in real time. That's right, the battles are not turn-based in this game. It is all in real time, similar to action RPGs like Kingdom Hearts for example. I don't think any other Pokemon spin-off has ever attempted this style of battle before, and that's definitely one of the things that makes Poképark so unique. I really feel like way too many people are missing out on this game. The reason many people never played this is because of the heavy focus on minigames, but that never bothered me before, and in my opinion, I don't think the focus on minigames is that heavy, but that's just me. I remember really wanting a sequel for this game, preferably with an area that resembles a human looking town, but for Pokemon. And guess what? I got exactly what I wanted in the sequel Poképark 2 Wonders Beyond. And of course I also recommend playing this amazing sequel, although I think this first game is still better. Next on my list on number 4 was Xenogears for the PlayStation. I continue talking about why this game in particular was so underrated. Long ago, before Xenoblade Chronicles existed, there was Xenogears. Xenogears has many similarities with the Xenoblade games, such as the gears being very similar to the scales from Xenoblade X, or how the Nopon from Xenoblade are obviously inspired by the Choo-Choo race from Xenogears. There are a lot of similarities in the story as well between Xenogears and all of the Xenoblade games, but don't worry, I won't talk about or show them here to avoid spoilers. There are also a lot of similarities with the Xenosaga games as well, but I haven't played Xenosaga yet because episode 1 and 3 were never released outside of Japan and North America, and I'm from Europe. If I had played them, I would have probably included those games in this list instead of Xenogears, because I would probably enjoy those games even more. However, Xenogears also never released outside of Japan and North America. So how did I play that game? Well, the answer is simple. Xenogears had a re-release on the American PSN store on the PlayStation 3. All I had to do was create an American PSN account, then I found a trustworthy online shop located in my country that sold American PSN codes, bought a code, and so I was able to purchase and play Xenogears in a completely legal way. If you are also from a region where Xenogears never released, then I definitely recommend getting the game the same way that I did. The PSN store was supposed to shut down in July, but after a massive outcry from many fans, myself included, Sony decided to keep the store, so you can still use this method to buy Xenogears. Xenogears has a very fascinating story, with topics many other games are too afraid to touch upon. I really appreciate this. In fact, this game was originally pitched as Final Fantasy VII, believe it or not, but it was rejected as a Final Fantasy game because it was too dark. And the actual Final Fantasy VII, in my opinion, already had some pretty dark moments. And yes, Xenogears is indeed a really dark game, I love that about it. The characters are also really great. Faye and Ellie are really great main characters, and the other party members are really great as well, although I feel some of them don't get nearly enough screen time. Characters like Rico, Maria and Choo Choo just feel like they're just along for the ride after their character arc is completed, which for all three of them happens almost immediately after they join the party. And then there's Bart. He's definitely one of the better characters in this game. And yes, he looks a lot like Zeke from Xenoblade 2. Zeke's character design was probably inspired by Bart. And the first 2 times you fight Zeke in Xenoblade 2, there's a glass shattering animation before the fight, which also happens when the fight is about to start in Xenogears. And of course you can unlock a costume for Zeke that makes him look even more like Bart in challenge mode. And who can forget the Captain of the Thames? I remember him because I am a man of the sea. But anyway, play Xenogears if you can, if you like the Xenoblade franchise. The gameplay didn't always age well, but it's worth it for the story. Although I did wish we could get a remake of some kind one day, especially with how rushed Disc 2 is. Disc 2 definitely ruined my enjoyment of the game a bit. Like almost the entire disc is just the characters narrating events that were obviously planned to be playable segments of the game. And so I finished the segment on Xenogears in this video. Next up is number 3 already. I wonder what that game will be. Is it really more underrated than Xenogears? Next up is the sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass. And I know what you're thinking right now, is this game really underrated? Didn't it sell really well? Yes, that is true. However, this game gets a lot of hate online for no reason. So rather, this game is more overhated rather than underrated. But in my opinion, overhated is also underrated. Phantom Hourglass lets you control Link exclusively with the touchscreen. Many people have problems with this that I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand why people hate using the touchscreen. I never had any problems with it. Just look at how fluid I am able to move Link around and use a sword. It works so well, and is so much fun to control. The touchscreen controls feel identical to analog controls for moving Link around. It's great! Another issue many people have is the Temple of the Ocean King, which you have to revisit quite often in this game. And I do sort of understand this complaint. Having to revisit the same dungeon over and over again, solving the same puzzles you've already done multiple times, while also being stealthy. However, weirdly enough, I always kinda like this for some reason. Every single time I revisit the Temple of the Ocean King, I get excited because I can use my new gained tools to solve the puzzles I've already done even faster and more efficiently, while trying to set a new best time. I feel like most people who hate this game haven't properly played it in over a decade, and I think that those people need to give this game a second chance as well as the sequel, Spirit Tracks. This game has some really good dungeons, a great story, amazing characters like Lineback for example, now there's another Man of the Sea, and I think the soundtrack is also underrated. Yes, it's true, this game reuses the same songs way too many times, especially in dungeons, but I never noticed this until people on the internet pointed it out to me. I legit never noticed the same music getting reused during my first 10 playthroughs or something, around that number at least. And without spoiling anything, this game is one of my favorite finales in Zelda ever. Please give this game a chance if you have never played it. Don't listen to the negative Nancys of the internet and listen to the positive people for once.
I wish there was a way I could combine these games.
Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE is the crossover between Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei that no one asked for. although in my opinion Tokyo Mirage Sessions has more in common with Persona, which is a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei. I mean, you can literally dress up as Joker in the Switch version. Yeah, I never saw that coming. I always loved this game on both Wii U as well as the new Switch version. It's definitely one of my favorite turn-based RPGs. Sadly enough, I don't see many people talk about this game, and whenever people do talk about it, they are mostly complaining about the censorship. But guess what? I prefer the censored version. This game is very similar to Persona. There are original characters and each party member has their own Mirage. Basically this game's version of a Persona. However, the Mirages are Fire Emblem characters such as Chrom or Shida, and instead of going to a Velvet Room, you go to Tiki. This game also has a heavy focus on the entertainment industry of Japan, as the characters are all trying or are already into show business. There are also a lot of J-pop songs in this game and I absolutely love it. This game probably has the most criminally underrated soundtrack of all time. Like, how can you not love this? I really wish more people would give this game a chance. You can get this game very easily on Switch right now. Please play it if you love RPGs, especially if you like Persona, Shin Megami Tensei or Fire Emblem. The game didn't sell as well as I hoped and I really wanted to do better, so we can maybe get a sequel one day. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but the order of this list is decided by how underrated I think a game is. Number 1 on this list is not necessarily a better game in my opinion than the rest of this list. Not at all in fact. The reason why this last game is on number 1 is because almost no one ever talks about this game and not many people even know of its existence. And that game is Kingsley's Adventure for the PlayStation. Kingsley's Adventure is an adventure game that is probably very heavily inspired by The Legend of Zelda, one of my favorite game franchises of all time. But I actually played this game first, so I probably have Kingsley to thank for why I'm a Zelda fan. There are also a lot of elements from 3D platformers too. I once looked up an article online that described this game as a mix between Zelda and Crash Bandicoot, and can you guess what my favorite franchises are? Kingsley is an orphan who always dreamed of becoming a knight. Recently, a bad guy named Bad Custard took over the Fruit Kingdom. The 4 strongest knights of the land were captured and transformed into monsters by one of Bad Custard's spells. This means that Kingsley has to complete his knight training as soon as possible while also saving the kingdom. Just like in Zelda games, there are several dungeons filled with puzzles that you need to explore in order to progress. Instead of getting an item inside a dungeon to progress, you actually get 2 brand new items after you complete the dungeon, such as better weapons, a crossbow, or even better armor. The game is also filled with very charming NPCs who all have their own thing going on. Although sadly enough, there's not that much depth behind them beside that. I feel like this game was supposed to have side quests to resolve some of the problems and to get to know them better, and that it might have been scrapped due to a lack of time maybe, but that is just pure speculation though. I just always felt like something was missing with some of the NPCs. The combat in this game is similar to Ocarina of Time, but a little bit more basic, as there is no targeting for example. I still like the combat though. The music is also fantastic, definitely the most underrated soundtrack of all time. I really wish we could get a remake of this game someday, so we could get a remastered soundtrack as well as brand new side quests. I think this game could really use some side quests for even more world building and to make the game last a bit longer, as it's pretty short. I also think this game would also look amazing in current gen graphics. Imagine the art style a remake of this game could have. They could make it look like Crash Bandicoot 4 or something. This game also has tank controls, and although the tank controls work pretty well because the game was probably designed with them in mind, I would still like for a remake to get rid of them as well. Sadly enough, I don't think a remake of this game is going to happen anytime soon, especially considering no one even knows about this game. But believe me, I really recommend getting this game if you can. It's such a charming little adventure game that is definitely worth your time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell to stay tuned for future videos. I would really appreciate it. If you want, please click the like button as well and leave a comment. It would really help me and the channel out. I would love to have more feedback on my videos if possible. Also, a special thank you to Xcage Game for letting me use their Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge gameplay footage. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again. With that said, thanks again for watching and hopefully I will see you next time.